So according to MSNBC, Donald Trump got his freak on just a little while after he married his current wife. And now he's apparently afraid of this person because they're going to leak some kind of information. I have no idea. But we're going to get into it. So if you're into that sort of thing, stick around.
The two people who the President of the United States seems to fear the most are Vladimir Putin and Stormy Daniels. And it may be that Stormy Daniels is one of the reasons that Donald Trump fears Vladimir Putin so much. If Putin's agents have been searching for information.
How is Trump afraid of Putin?
With which to blackmail Donald Trump for some years now, there would be no reason for them to limit their interest to what Donald Trump might or might not have done in Moscow hotel rooms. So it may be that Vladimir Putin knew much more about Donald Trump and Stormy Daniels and
today, Junior,
and knew it before the rest of us did.
What? Who the hell cares what Trump did in some hotel room? We all know that Donald Trump is kind of a pig. We get that. Nobody cares. We elected him anyways. What's the problem here? Even if the allegations are true, it's some big surprise that Trump, wants to get his freak on with supermodels. A man wants to have sex with supermodels. Hold the presses.
Tonight, we all know a lot more about Donald Trump and Stormy Daniels thanks to Stormy Daniels' lawsuit against Donald J. Trump, a.k.a. David Dennison. And that is actually how the lawsuit reads. And that has Donald Trump and his lawyers all the more worried.
I see no evidence whatsoever that Donald Trump is sweating at all. In fact, he sent his lackey instead to address the press about this. It's probably because he's a little preoccupied at the moment trying to get all the illegal immigrants out of the country so he can increase the employment rate. Yeah.
News reported today Donald Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen, is trying to silence adult film star Stormy Daniels, obtaining a secret restraining order in a private arbitration proceeding and warning that she faces penalties if she publicly discusses a relationship with the president. Stormy Daniels is suing Donald Trump to avoid an agreement that she signed with Donald Trump's lawyers to prevent her from ever revealing any information about her relationship with Donald Trump. Stormy Daniels signed that agreement 11 days before the presidential election in 2016. In 2011, Stormy Daniels gave an interview to In Touch Weekly, which they did not then publish, in which she described some of the details of having sex with Donald Trump in a hotel suite at Lake Tahoe that occurred a few months after Donald Trump's third wife, Melania, gave birth to their son. Stormy Daniels told In Touch that she asked Donald Trump that night about his wife, and he said, "Oh, don't worry about her." She also said this: "The sex was nothing crazy. He wasn't like chain me to a bed or anything. It was one position. I can definitely describe his junk perfectly if I ever have to. He definitely seemed smitten after that. He was like, I want to see you again. When can I see you again?"
So you can see where the media is spinning this, but I'm really glad they actually did bring this up and got her opinion. Obviously, she's even vouching for him that if any kind of sexual contact did happen between these two people, a bare minimum was nothing disgusting or nothing crazy, dirty, or anything like that, because we all know what happens, in the world of NBC, in the Me Too movement, all that stuff, with anybody that might act a little bit too inappropriate.
Stormy Daniels' lawsuit claims that her confidentiality agreement has been breached by Michael Cohen and therefore voided. When Trump attorney Michael Cohen told the New York Times, quote, "In a private transaction in 2016, I used my own personal funds to facilitate a payment of $130,000 to Miss Stephanie Clifford." That's Stormy Daniels' real name. "Neither the Trump organization nor the Trump campaign was a party to this transaction with Ms. Clifford, and neither reimbursed me for the payment, either directly or indirectly."
So apparently Michael Cohen is the ultimate bro. Having a little woman troubles, buddy? Don't worry, I'll write her a check.
The lawsuit also claims that the confidentiality agreement is void because Donald Trump never signed it in the space provided for the signature of David Dennison, his alias.
So this is a legal document, and Trump's name isn't even on the document. Instead, it's this David Dennison guy. Are we sure that Donald Trump is even David Dennison? Curious.
for that agreement. Today, the White House press secretary said this.
The president has addressed these directly and made very well clear that none of these allegations are true. This case has already been won in arbitration, and anything beyond that, I would refer you to the president's outside counsel.
You said that there's arbitration that's already been won? By whom and when?
By the president's personal attorneys, and for details on that, I would refer you to them.
There was money that was won by Trump's attorney. Curious how that was phrased right there, right? Is it possible that Trump actually sued somebody and got some money out of it? Until the documents get leaked online and we actually have a look at as to what's going on in this document, that there's really no way of telling. But I find it really unusual that he would phrase that question that way and she would answer it that way.
For details on that, we now turn to Stormy Daniels' lawyer, attorney Michael Avenatti. Mr. Avenatti, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I want to get your reaction, first of all, to what the White House press secretary just said there.
How do I say this kindly? Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. I personally like Ms. Sanders. I think she has a near impossible job. But the fact of the matter is, and I'm confident that she didn't know that it was nonsense when she effectively told that to the world, but it's absolutely bogus. It's nonsense.
How many times can you say nonsense or bogus within a span of 30 seconds?
Any claim by the administration that Donald Trump won in arbitration is no different than me claiming that I won the Super Bowl a few weeks ago. It's complete hooey.
Yeah, I've read the arbitration order today. It's a temporary order that is superseded, as far as I can tell, by your lawsuit, which simply includes that as one of the things that your lawsuit is being brought against. I want to talk about some. Go ahead.
Let me just interrupt you if I could. I mean, it's even more simple than that. If you look at the temporary restraining order, there's one party adverse to PP, which is my client, which is EC. That's the entity that Mr. Cohen set up to facilitate the payment, to hide the payment. At least that's our position. Donald Trump is not even a party to the arbitration. How can you win an arbitration that you're not even a party to? It's impossible. And if there's one thing we know from the last 5 or 6 weeks, it's that, and if there's one thing that Mr. Cohen has made absolutely clear in his statements to the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and anyone else that would listen, is that supposedly EC is different than Donald Trump. Well, if EC is different than Donald Trump for the purpose of the payment, then EC is different than Donald Trump for the purposes of the arbitration. You can't win something you're not a party to.
Maybe. But at the same time, this sounds like a lot of hearsay, he said, she said. The real question is whether or not there's any proof of these allegations in the first place. If there's no proof, then there's no lawsuit. If there's no lawsuit, there's no charges. What's the problem here?
Did Stormy Daniels tell the truth to In Touch magazine and the details of her relationship with Donald Trump?
Absolutely. And I think ultimately, if she's provided a forum to tell the complete story, I think the American people are going to conclude that she's telling the truth. And really, Lawrence, that's what this is about. This is about my client being able to tell her story, tell her version of events, and then let the chips fall where they may. Let the American people decide who's telling the truth. Let the American people decide, is it Stormy Daniels that's shooting straight with him, or is it Donald Trump? Is it Stormy Daniels or Michael Cohen? Is it Stormy Daniels or Ms. Sanders? And we're confident in the outcome were that to take place.
So Stormy Daniels' story is that she had sex with Donald Trump. She described that in some detail in the In Touch interview. Donald Trump, to my knowledge, has never contradicted Stormy Daniels. He's never attacked her. This is the one person, the one woman who has come out and stood in Donald Trump's way that for some reason Donald Trump seems to be afraid of. Can you give us any insight as to why Donald Trump remains absolutely silent about Stormy Daniels? This is the one woman he refuses to attack.
Again, how the hell is he afraid of her? There's no evidence to this. Like, NBC just loves to make shit up.
The truth hurts. And I think really that's what it comes down to. I mean, this is a search for the truth. And quite honestly, if he doesn't have anything to hide, I don't understand what the issue is. You know, that old saying, people that have nothing to hide, hide nothing.
It went to court. It didn't go it didn't go anywhere. All right, it's over, and it happened way before he was elected in the first place. So it's not like Clinton or anything like that, where it happened during the presidency. Monica Lewinsky, you know exactly what I'm fucking talking about.
Well, let's talk about some of the things the signed agreement was trying to hide. One of the things it specifies is that Stormy Daniels was agreeing to completely divest herself of, and it lists a bunch of things, including video images, still images, or any other type of creation by David Dennison, meaning any video images or still images created by Donald Trump. Did she have any video images or still images created by Donald Trump?
And that's a question I'm not going to answer. That's a question that my client will answer at the appropriate time if she's ever permitted to talk and give her side of the story.
And it also says at another point in the agreement that Stormy Daniels represents that she has actually turned over such things. There's a line where it says she represents that the only copy of the images and property that has ever existed at any time has been turned over to Donald Trump's counsel. Are you aware of her having turned over anything like that, images, to Donald Trump's counsel?
Again, Lawrence, I think that this is a question that's going to have to be addressed to my client at the appropriate time, and she's going to be fully prepared to answer.
Wait a second, I thought this whole document was supposed to be to silence her. And if it's void in two different areas, A, he didn't sign it, and B, it's not even his name. And what's his name brought it up in a press conference with the New York Times. So, if it's void, that means she can come out and say it whenever she wants. So why isn't she?
Okay, and there's just one other detail of what they were trying to hide in this confidentiality agreement that I'd like to go over with you and tell us what you can about it, if anything. And I just want to read it for the audience. This is something that's their definition of confidential information. It includes all intangible private information relating to or pertaining to Donald Trump, including business information, familial information, any of his alleged sexual partners, alleged sexual actions, or alleged sexual conduct, related matters, or paternity information. Are you aware of your client having anything to say about paternity information involving Donald Trump?
Again, Lawrence, when my client is provided the opportunity to speak freely and honestly and openly to the American people, I don't think she's going to hold back. I think she's going to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, and we're going to let the American people decide who's telling the truth.
Why is this guy on the show? He can't give you any information whatsoever. What's the fucking point in the first place?
Can you give us a quick outline of what you're expecting of the next legal steps here?
Well, quite honestly, I wasn't expecting Ms. Sanders' statement at the White House today, which is patently false. So it's always an interesting ride, I guess, when you're dealing with the administration. So we don't know exactly what to anticipate, but here's what we'd like to anticipate. Here's what we'd like to see. A few very basic questions. This case really boils down to a very few basic questions, and it really is this simple. Number one, did the president know of the negotiation, the agreement, the payment of the $130,000, and the issues relating to our client? That's number one. That can be answered in less than 140 characters. It's either yes or no. It's very straightforward.
Because he's busy fixing the country. Priority.
Second question, did Donald Trump sign the agreement? Yes or no? Answers to those two questions is really going to frame this lawsuit and is really going to decide a lot in connection with this case. This doesn't have to drag on for a significant period of time. Our position's clear. He never signed the agreement, even though he knew all about it, and therefore she's free to speak. If the White House or if Mr. Cohen has any evidence that he actually signed the agreement, they should be disseminating it not tomorrow morning, tonight.
Okay, so this guy likes to assume that the president could just drop what he's doing and just answer his questions at any given point. Now, personally speaking, I can care less where he puts his little Johnny. I could fucking care less, and I don't think most people really care. The left definitely care because they look for anything they can to jump on to discredit him. In the meantime, major problems are being solved. For example, why don't we hear from ISIS? Before Trump sent Mad Dog into the Middle East to take care of the problem, ISIS, and suicide bombers and all these terror attacks all over the world, all the time. It was on every major headline and every major news media outlet, and it was so common. Like every day or every other day, there was a new bombing or a new something. Where is that now? Where? All right. ISIS is eradicated. It's gone. No one's heard of them. No one, they're not growing anymore. They're down to their last, few men standing. So, do we really care what the Trump, what the Donald, does with his Willie? No, I don't care. I don't care at all. Because you know what? He solved the ISIS problem. Something that Obama couldn't do. All right? Something that George Bush couldn't do. So he was able to do it. Honestly, personally speaking, I can't speak for everybody else, but feel free to put your willy whatever the hell you want. As long as you keep saving people's lives, I'm fine with that. He also mentioned the whole Bill Clinton thing. He should answer to these allegations just like Bill Clinton had to. No, Bill Clinton did this stuff during his presidency. While he was married to, hell bitch. So, it's a little different with the Donald Trump doing something, back in 2011 and now having the answer for it. I don't think so. He wasn't president in 2011. He wasn't thinking about running in 2011. So, it's a little bit of a different story here. So as we can see, the cycle continues and the left continues to freak out and do its thing and, try to expose Trump any way they possibly can. I don't think it's going to work personally. Maybe they'll make some kind of, move to impeach him because of it. I have no idea. But as long as this stuff wasn't done during the presidency, I can't see it being a huge deal. Whether Trump's wife knows about it, whether she's gotten over it or, forgiven him for it or whatever, that's their business. Let them sort it out themselves. Maybe she knows about it and she's okay with it. Maybe that's why he came out and said, don't worry about her. Maybe they had, back then they had an open relationship. We don't know. These are personal information about this guy's marriage, and that's his business. So do you think Trump actually did this kind of stuff with this girl? I think he probably did, personally, but, I want to hear your opinion one way or another. How do you think it's going to play out? Should he be impeached for something he did before he was elected? If he is, guilty of having sex?